Hello, this is George Demaree again with another Your Money Matters show. Again, thank you for being a part of Money Matters. As always, I like to start out by telling you what we really do at Money Matters. We promote financial literacy. We look for business opportunities and education opportunities. We try our best to help you think strategically about making money and buying decisions. We help your credit worthiness, remember about your credit score. And finally, and just as important as anything, what you can do to get out of debt and stay out of debt. But before I go any further today is a special day. It's Tuesday, November 17th, and it's a special day for my fraternity brothers. Rude to the Q's today, rude to the Q's. So, moving forward, we're going to talk about money today. We're going to talk about how you make money, ways of making money, what you need to do in order to change and improve your life as it relates to money. So if you Google what is money, basically this is the definition that you get. It's a facilitator for the exchange of goods and services. You know, it's what you use, and is an easy way of exchanging, again, to buy goods and to buy services. As compared to a number of years ago, excuse me, when they used the barter system that was dependent on coincidental wants, and it was very cumbersome. So just money just makes it easy. And another thing about money is the only reward that is completely negotiable. Think about that. Money, completely negotiable. A human being any person can vastly improve their value. Whoever you are and how much money you make is based on, your pay is based on your perceived value, what the market will bear. You wonder why athletes make so much money. Now think about it. Yes, they do, but they don't make as much money as the owners do. They make money. Their value is because of their skill, they can fill up, number one, they can fill up arenas, and people can pay many times an exorbitant amount of money for tickets. And also because people want to watch them on TV, there are network contracts that owners of NBA, NFL, and any other sports franchise, they get a portion of just because of the audience that happens to listen to or view that particular sports event. The amount of money we receive, when it comes to money, amount of money is in direct ratio with the demand for what we do, our ability to do it well, and the difficulty of replacing us. Now, your money, no matter what it is, let me say that again, is in direct ratio with the demand for what you do, your ability to do it well, and the difficulty of replacing you. Let's talk about that for a moment. Are you a person who can solve problems, or are you a person that causes a problem? When you have to understand what business owners and managers do, especially on companies that are publicly traded. They don't really own the company. It's the stockholders that own the company. So if you are easy to replace, and let me back up. There are two ways businesses make money. There's some other ancillary ways, but for the most part, there are two ways that a business makes money. One is increased sales, So if you're a publicly traded company and there is, and they had a board of directors meeting prior to the year, and they had certain goals that they tried to reach, the first thing they do is say, well, how can we improve sales? The other way that they make money is reduce expenses. So if you're a person who's at a job and you get to work late, you leave early, you frown on not staying extra when they need you on occasion, you happen to be a problem, and now the company is not reaching its goals as it relates to its stockholders, and they're looking around the room to see how can we reduce expenses. Don't be that first person. I have been in my job, I have been in a position where we've had to reduce the number of employees based on where we were in our bottom line. That is not a very pleasant place to be. But let me tell you, the people who always, for the most part, there are exceptions, but for the most part, the people that keep their jobs are the people who can multitask. And the people who do it in a pleasant way, and the people who are problem solvers and not problem causers. I was talking to a guy who was working on some things in my garage just the other day. And he also works for MSD. And his boss was a guy that I went to college with, by the way. And he said the number one piece of advice that his boss gave him, he said, hire people that won't cause you a problem. So always be the person willing to do a little extra. A higher skilled person, higher skilled people are also worth more money as compared to people with lower skills. That's why it's always important to look for ways of improving yourself, improving your skill set. Read, look for other ways. There are so many ways that you can improve your employment situation if you're really willing to look at it. Remember this, that a diamond has a ton of value. It's much more valuable than a hunk of coal. But a diamond started out as a hunk of coal, and that pressure got them there. Another thing that we want to talk about is something that we mentioned from the book Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill. And he always focused on persistence and determination. Always be persistent. Never give up. There's not a person, I have never ran into a person who was overly persistent. As a director of sales and a general sales manager at my radio stations, I look for people who were as persistent as they can be, so persistent that their customer or my customer will call me and say, George, this person is calling me all the time. And I would reply, well, I know you wish you had those kind of salespeople working for you. Remember this, demand/value equals money. If you are in demand and you bring a high level of value, it equals money. Remember, people do what they value. We talked about beliefs and values last week. People believe a lot of things, but they only do what they value. Look for where when preparation meets opportunity. Give an example of when preparation meets opportunity. When I was a younger sales rep at WAMZ Radio back in the late 80s, early 90s, I always felt that I would be great as a manager. And though I had a good manager, I had a ton of good managers during that period, but I really felt that I would be a better manager than the guy I worked for. I could actually see myself sitting in his chair. I could visualize what I had to do. So let me tell you what I did. I used to help the other reps. I performed as a manager before I had that opportunity, where preparation meets opportunity. There are people who want more money, but will they do what it takes to prepare for more money? You can make more money if you prepare. Are you willing to do more than what you're paid for? Well, a ton of people say, well, George, that's not in my job description. People who say it's not in their job description, when business owners, managers need a job done, and when it comes to a period when things aren't going well, we talked about this earlier, they're the first people to get downsized as opposed to other people. How can you increase your service to people? What is it? Remember, good leaders are good servient leaders. One of the many, many things that makes Reverend Cosby such a great leader is he's a servient leader. Great leaders serve. That would be a good lesson for our current president, to understand that leadership is about service, and it's not about yourself, and how to be selfless, and how to do things for other people. And when you do, guess what happens? People like working for you. How much money do you want to make? It's on you. Write it down. Record it. This is what I want to make. And then create a plan and set a goal to get there. You are rewarded, again, by the service that you provide and by the value that you provide. Now, how you make money? Let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about it. The first thing that you need to do is talk about it. If you happen to be a married couple or about to be a married couple, talk about it. Usually when there's a problem in a marriage, more times than not, it's money related. And what happens, let me give you some things that I've learned about marriage and money and how you can run into those situations. It's when you don't communicate expectation. Usually people don't make it in a marriage if they don't understand the other person's expectation, because it's not communicated. You've got to communicate where you are, where you want to be with everything, and especially your money. Because people usually get their blueprint for marriage from their parents. And trust me, two sets of parents have not done it the same way. If you are going to get married, talk about it. Talk about it. Find out, as tough as this may be, find out a person's credit score. Find out a person's buying habits. Find out if a person has a ton of credit card debt. Don't get married, find out later you hadn't talked about it, and then realize you can't buy a house. Money moves to those who understand it. You really have to understand money. We talked about how some of this should be taught in high schools and in college on how to talk the language of money. Language like interest. Well, what does interest really mean? When a person says interest rate, interest is computed in so many different ways, audience. You have a fixed interest. That means that's the same interest rate through the entire length until you pay a debt off. There's a variable interest, usually depending on what the prime rate is. that's an APR and compounded interest, which is usually how credit cards are interests are computed, which is a reason why it takes such a long time to pay off credit card debt. Let's take a second to talk about credit card debt. A minimum payment on credit card is usually about 4% of the principal. So let me share what that looks like. If you have a credit card bill that's $1,000, usually, sometimes it's less than 4%, but usually it's no more than 4%, so the minimum payment would be $40 a month. If you paid that minimum payment because interest is compounded, it would take you 32 months to pay off a $1,000 loan, a $1,000 piece of debt on a credit card. That's why you always try to put more money on the principal so you can get it paid off a ton quicker. Some of the other words that you need to know as far as interest. You got prime, you have simple interest, discounted interest. Usually a prime interest is for some of the bigger folks, and a discounted interest is usually what they use for industry. There's a phrase called retained earnings. This is what they use when they want to compute the value many times of a piece of stock. What are the retained earnings? Usually a good one is around 10 or 15%. So again, we talked about value to stockholders. If they were projecting that they would grow at 10%, and then in September, if it happens to be a calendar year rather than fiscal year, they realize that they're going to come up 2 or 3 percentage points below the projection. Now they start looking around the room on how they can reduce expenses. I want you to know how it works. Return on investment, depreciation, cost of goods sold, accounts payable, accounts receivable. These are all the terms that you need to know when you are dealing with your money. The other thing that you need to understand about money is how to take calculated risk. If you are not willing to take a risk with your money, you won't grow. Your money won't grow. If you're not willing to put some money in a stock market or some money in other investments, this is how money works and money grows. So what are some of the other ways that you can make money? Well, let's go. It's a number of ways that you can make money. One, you can use high yield savings accounts. Now, the value of a high yield savings account is it's a protected account. You won't lose your principal, but it only grows probably at a maximum of 2%. I believe that if you're going to start an emergency fund, then it'll be good if your emergency fund goes into a high yield savings account where you are growing some interest, but that money is there when you need it. The other way is retirement accounts, IRAs. If your company offers a 401k, take it. Take it. And if your company offers a match for a 401k, take it. Do not leave money on the table. A match for 401ks is free money. Take it. Now, some people may say, well, George, I can't save money. I can't put it in there because I need it to live on. I'm telling you, take my word for it. There's a lot of things that I have done, looking back on it over the last 20 years, that I wish I could have done better. As a matter of fact, to be completely candid, If I was this smart 20 years ago, I'd be a multimillionaire right now. So there's a lot of things, trust me, mistakes that I made with my money that I wish I hadn't made, that I'm sharing with you guys so you don't make. But let me tell you one thing that I did well. I saved money every month. If, when you get your paycheck, Uncle Sam gets his money first, no matter what. He does. You don't get to spend a dime until the federal government gets their money. They don't allow you to take the money and hope that you're going to pay them. No. If you're willing to do that, pay yourself. If you can save 10%, do it. Force yourself to do it and live off what's remaining. Money will grow, and it grow if you keep doing it, and you do it at an early age. Use 401ks. Invest in mutual funds. The thing about IRAs is they're tax deferred. So that's money going into those accounts pre-taxed. Now, when you take them out, you're going to pay tax. But if you keep them in until age 59 and a half, you will not need to pay a penalty. Another thing that you should consider that I didn't really understand till a few years ago are Roth accounts. I love Roth accounts. I wish I had put more money in Roth accounts. Let me tell you what they do. First of all, the federal government only allows you to put so much money in Roth accounts. That's how valuable they are. If someone puts a limit on something, you better look, because there's a reason they put a limit on something. If you are 50 and under, you can put as much as $6,000 in a Roth a year. 50 and over, you can put $7,000. But let me tell you the value of a Roth. It is post-taxed. That is money that's taxed before it goes into that IRA, and then all the money that you make on that money is no longer taxable income. If you can take money that you say, if you have money saved in an account, and you can put money in a Roth today and pay taxes on it today, this year, I would suggest that you do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take as much money as I can before we get into 2021. I'm going to put that money in a Roth, and here's one of the reasons why. We have a tax rate now that's lower than it's been in a long time. And the chances of taxes increasing is high. I don't care who's in the White House. It just makes sense. Let me share with you why I believe this. Because our federal debt has blown up. Our federal debt's blown up. And if interest rates go up, guess what happens to the federal debt? And interest rates will go up. One of the reasons that they've kept interest rates so low, if you're going to buy a house, buy it now, is because if interest rates go up, that federal debt goes up. And when that federal debt goes up, somebody's going to have to pay that debt off, and taxes will go up. So if you can put money in a Roth before the end of this year, I suggest that you do it. Also, look to buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds, CDs, ETFs. Let me share with you about stocks. I looked it up. Some people will say, well, no, don't put so much in stock, but I personally believe in the stock market. In the last 140 years, the stock market has gone up an average of 9% a year. Now, that's not to say that some years crashed and some years did. In 2007 and 2008 and 2009, things went crazy. But over the last 10 years, the stock market has averaged, now total stock market has averaged an increase of 13% a year. That's a lot of money. Now, will that growth continue? And remember this, past performance is not an indicator of future returns. It's just not. But if you're young and you got time, put some money in the stock market, buy some stocks that make sense. I bought Apple stock about 3-4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, because they had so much money in cash reserve. I thought it just made sense. Use your common sense when you buy stocks. Another way to earn money is invest in professional improvement. Go to school, learn a trade. These are ways you can make money. You can make money in real estate. Now, how do you make money in real estate? There's a few ways to make money in real estate. One is, actually it's twofold. You can make it on rental property, and you can make it on appreciation of asset. And a lot of that money can be, the value can be depreciated against your tax returns. There's a lot you can do when you own property. And remember, they're not making any more land. Some people decide, if they're really good at it, they want to flip. Some want to buy and hold. Some can have rental property for vacations, all kind of things. Another way that you can make money is you can start a business. Every business had to start a business. You know, one day Amazon started a business. One day Apple started a business. Look around the room. We've had many business leaders, black business leaders, who have been guests on Money Matters. And all of them were willing to take a risk. I remember Winston Pittman sitting right here, and he said when he bought that dealership on Dixie Highway, it was a wreck. And people made fun of him and said he would never make it. Well, about 15 or 20 dealerships later, you see that he made that work for him. Take self-improvement classes. Help yourself. Again, there's ways of making money. It's about making yourself more valuable to your employer, but more importantly, it's about making yourself more valuable for you and your family, and to be able to live a lifestyle that you want to live. Now, money is not everything, but nor is money the root of evil. People are the root of evil who happen to misuse of money. Money helps you to pay your bills. It helps to send your kids through school. It helps you to buy all the necessities that you need. We talked about changing thinking about money. Get yourself a side hustle. Be willing to do things other people don't do. I've talked about my daughter many times. She just called me right before this meeting, as a matter of fact. She will be 31 coming March. She's been in school her whole life. You know, she just has. It took her that long to get through college, a graduate degree, medical school, and 5 years from now, people will look at her and say, wow, she's doing well, she's lucky. But no, she did what she had to do. We talked about it, about being persistent and being determined. She was determined that she was going to be a doctor. Let me share a quick story about her. During the summer months, between her freshman, sophomore, and junior year, instead of sitting at home and going to summer camp, she went to camps, the school in Massachusetts, and all they did was math and science, which put her in a position to get to Vanderbilt to help her to get to where she is today. It's about where preparation meets opportunity. And finally, I'm going to always spend some time on debt. Get out of debt. Start paying off your bills. Use credit cards for necessities, for needs, not wants. Remember the D-Free Pledge. Apply God's strategy to managing money, which means don't be so materialistic. I wish I used to spend so much on custom-made suits that I bought 20 years ago, and now they're in the back of the closet, and I wish I had invested that money in some stock. Number 2, keep expenses below your income. Try your best to do that. Number 3, pay bills on time. Paying your bills on time just says you're a person of your word. That if you said you're going to do something, you're going to do it. Invest in appreciating assets. And finally, and just as important, contribute to your church. Contribute to your church. And your church will give it back to you twofold, if not fourfold. Thank you very much. Appreciate you spending some time with me. Hope you're learning something with Money Matters. And remember, God loves you, and so do we. Thank you.